I don't normally do quick videos, but I think this one's necessary because I see a lot of confusion and terminology mix-up going on with regards to Chapter 5's weird route, and I want to help clarify things before certain terms become widely misused by the community and end up amplifying said confusion. For starters, this video will have some spoilers for Chapter 5's weird route, but very little in terms of spoilers as a whole, no later than the fun gang entering the Dark World. I recommend playing the weird route up to that point before watching this video. With that out of the way, I need to give a brief history lesson about Side B. Yes, there is a history lesson to be had. Side B is not a new occurrence. When Chapter 2 was released, it took nearly a day for the alternate route to be found. There's a Google Doc detailing its discovery and going over who found what, which I'll link in the description, and this doc refers to the route as the command route. The more popular community names were, at the time, Genocide after the Undertale route, and the Snowgrave route after the titular spell we succeed in getting Noelle to cast. Some other community names existed, like the Manipulation or even the Pippus routes, but Snowgrave quickly emerged as the fan favorite. Simultaneously though, and leading up to this discovery, and soon after it, Dataminers had been digging into the code and finding some oddities. Dataminers like Space Core, who helped me verify parts of the story as someone who was digging through the code and posting stuff in the Discord on day one. Dataminers like him found an alternate version of the fountain with Spamton in it, unused dialogues with strange labels, a frozen Burley sprite, but most of all they found, and Space Core started deconstructing, the weird route manipulator. This, along with names of the events of the code and asset names, is where the most popular pre-Chapter 5 name comes from, the weird route. The subjects of that Google Doc beat the Dataminers, by the way. The weird route's conditions were found legitimately, and it was only after they found the way to activate the route that Dataminers started to dissect all of the flags and conditions needed to activate. But this wasn't the only name that arose from data mining. There was another way the code referred to this route, and it informed what was probably the third most popular way to refer to the route, whose popularity had really fallen off post-Chapters 3 and 4 as it didn't really fit the community's idea of the route naming. Side B. And it certainly hadn't fallen off for lack of being relevant. Side B is plastered all over the weird route's code in every chapter. Failing the route is universally, outside of Chapter 5, done by calling the script Side B fail function. Noelle's sprite changes that happen after a certain point in the weird route are labeled Side B. The scenes and rooms that are weird route exclusive are labeled Side B. It is littered all over the route and has been extremely prominent from Chapter 2 all the way until now. So what does script Side B fail do? In every chapter, all it does is set one flag, flag 916. Nothing else. There's some extra code here that doesn't do anything. Likely there is or was a debug statement that was used in development and not compiled into the full game. The only functional code is this line. This flag status is the weird route as you think of it. If you abort or fail to start the weird route, it is set to 1. All that is to say, Side B and the weird route are the same thing. The ending of the weird route in Chapter 5 could say, insert Chapter 7 weird route, and it would mean the exact same thing. It's not an extra weird route inside of the weird route or an alternate weird route. Side B is the weird route. Additionally, I've seen some people say weird route continues if you fail in the water with this cutscene. It doesn't. If you fail to achieve the insert Chapter 7 Side B ending, then Deltarune will always set flag 916 to 1. It doesn't use the Side B fail script, but it does the exact same thing in setting flag 916 to 1. You have failed Side B, and you have failed the weird route. It also, at the same time, sets flag 1743 to 1, which has some minor dialogue changes and initiates the cutscene that plays, where it states that nothing has changed. So here's how I see it. In Chapter 2, the game splits off into 2 routes, normal and weird. These have a variety of names and variations depending on your preferred nomenclature. One of these is labeled in the code as Side B in Chapter 2. Reasonably a fan labeling of the other would be Side A. The Side B naming is in reference most likely, especially given the CRT-like nature of the ending, be a reference to the A-side and B-side of vinyl records, and, especially in this case, cassette tapes, with the A-side usually referring to the primary release material, and B-side containing supplemental or bonus material. Likewise, the please insert screen is reminiscent of retro gaming when games were getting too big for their storage media like Final Fantasy VII was, and would require inserting a disc 2 or even a disc 3 after reaching a certain point to continue playing the game. All that is to say, no, this alternate cutscene isn't the start of Side A with flag 1743. Side A began when you booted up Chapter 1, and it's the normal route through the game. Side B is the weird route, and it's the strange underground supplemental route through the game that happens to reach a hard cutoff and requires the flip side of Chapter 7 to continue. That's not to say flag 1743 couldn't be the start of an alternate route within Side A or B, or even a new Side C, it's just not Side A itself. Right now, it looks like an aborted weird route, so a slightly different Side A, like how in Chapter 2 you can continue Side A with a thorn ring, or abort the weird route in Chapter 4 despite having Snowgrave Burley. But any of these could be relevant in the future, or could be needed to continue Side B, or anything of the sort. We won't know until we get there. But overall, just keep in mind, Side B is the weird root. Side A is an official term, and it definitely doesn't refer to Chapter 5's Nothing Changed aborted weird root. That's all. Personally, and it might be a bit of a stretch, but I'm starting to see weird root and Side B specifically as in-universe and device layer names for each other, like the all-uppercase image versus sprite and audio versus sound. Which is still a bit of a toss-up though.